Mary Pierce, thank you so much for joining the Double Bagel.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. Happy to be with you.
So this year, it's been 20 years since you won the French Open. Do you still remember that winning moment, or is that all a blur because it happened so fast?
Yeah. um, yeah, it's 20 years. It's incredible to think it's been 20 years because that's quite a long time. But it doesn't feel like it's been that long ago. It feels still fresh and recent. And it's amazing, to think that I'm still the last French player, male or female, to have won the French Open since then. So it's something that I'm very proud of.
Do you still remember when was the first time you visited Roland Garros?
Oh, that's a good question. Think I think the first time was when I was 13 years old. And when we moved to France, I started training at the National Training Center, and it was there at Roland Garros. So I think that's the first time that I went there. Yeah.
What about the first time going during the tournament?
So the first time during the actual tournament, Roland Garros being played,
Yeah.
I think it was actually when I played it.
Okay.
I don't remember going to the tournament as a spectator. We just watched it on TV actually growing up, and I was 15 years old when I played my first Roland Garros tournament, and I remember that very clearly. I actually won my first round main draw match against the top player. I think a top 30 player, something like that, and it was a big match for me. It was like super exciting.
Was it on a show court or was it on an outside court?
It was on the outside court. I believe it was court 7, which was the court
Okay.
that used to be behind the old round court number 1. It was just behind it. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was amazing to play there. It was my dream come true. My dream was to play the French Open, and then obviously to win it one day. That was the ultimate dream in tennis for me, and it's incredible. It's just really amazing to say that my dream in tennis actually came true, and I really just thank the Lord for that. It's amazing.
I mean, winning your first major, the Australian Open, at 20 years old, how does that change your life at such a young age? And was that for better or worse?
Yeah. Winning the Australian at 20. So, your whole life just changes instantly because, winning a Grand Slam is a huge event in tennis, and, it's watched by millions of people around the world. And so all of a sudden you become a star and you become well known and people recognize you almost everywhere you go. And, just to show you, like, for an example, how crazy it is like I won the Australian Open. I did my press conferences and everything like that. And then I was whisked away by my agent to some studio and filmed a commercial like the same day. So it was just pretty intense. And then your life just totally changes because there's a lot more demands on you outside of the court, for media and photo shoots and TV shows and radio shows. And so things that you didn't used to do before and spend your energy and your time doing. And so it takes a lot of energy to do those kind of things. And so, it's a big change, and you need to learn how to manage your energy, in a good way so that you don't get tired or exhausted for your training and for your tournaments. But I would definitely say that it's for the better, like, definitely, even though it was difficult to handle sometimes mentally and emotionally, and to feel like people are watching you all the time too, like everywhere you go, like they're always watching you. I just felt like, you know I'm not an animal in a cage in a zoo or something. I'm not like an attraction. I'm a human being just like you and just like everybody else. And so that was hard in the beginning, being so young as well. And there's a lot of things that you can explain to someone and try to help them to prepare for the future, but until you actually experience it yourself, you have to go through it and learn how to adapt through it. But all in all, I mean, of course, it's a great thing for sure.
You were finally inducted into the Tennis Hall of Fame last year after being nominated twice.
Yes, I think it was my third nomination when I got inducted. Yes.
How surprised were you when you got the call for the third time?
Well, I remember, being nominated the first time, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then, when you get the call and you're like, well, sorry, it's not this year. And you're like, okay. But I kind of expected it because the other ones that were nominated were like better ranked than me, or for longer years, or better results and the whole thing. So I was like, yeah, it's normal that they got nominated and not me, And then the third year I got nominated, I was like, okay. I remember saying to Stan Smith, I was like, okay, Stan, please don't nominate me if I'm not going to get elected. I don't know if I can handle a third year of not getting nominated. So he said, well, we'll see. We'll just have to let you know. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. So, but I felt pretty good, and I felt pretty confident about that third year. And then when I got the call that I was going to be inducted, I was just like over the moon. I was just so happy and so excited and so proud. And just an amazing, amazing, amazing achievement when you think, everything I did in my tennis career is being recognized in this one moment, and recognized as one of the greatest tennis players in the history of the game. Like, that's just so mind-blowing, and it's so humbling. And, to think of all the great, amazing players that are in the Hall of Fame that I've admired and watched, to think that I'm also going to the Hall of Fame was like, wow, this is incredible. I mean, it's just incredible. Yeah.
And you were against basically the whole of China, because I understand Li Na was also.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So I was like, oh well, great. I'm not gonna get nominated or elected this year because there's Li Na. I mean, just China alone only voting for her, that's like outvotes me. But yeah, so I actually was a little bit surprised that it was actually both of us. I thought it was just gonna be Li Na. So.
I want to go way back to when you were 10 years old, and I was surprised when I read this. So after your first tennis lesson, the coach went to see your parents immediately because they knew there was something special going on. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I wanted to be a pediatrician at a young age. I think by 7, I pretty much decided, okay, that's what I wanted to do. And I just got into tennis really just from a friend in school. I can't say by accident, because I believe in life everything happens for a reason and always for the best. And so I just followed a friend from school, and I played the first day, and the coach came to me, and he's like, what's your name? How old are you? Where are you from? How long have you been playing tennis? I've never seen you before. I was like, oh, my name is Mary. I'm 10 years old. I'm Rachel's friend. I'm from here. And I've been playing about, 45 minutes. And he's like, no, but how many years have you been playing? I was like, no, it's my first day. And he's like, okay, well, I want you to come back tomorrow with your parents. So I went back the next day with my parents, waited, watching my parents speak to the coach, and just waiting, what's going to happen. And then, I'm guessing the coach must have said something like, your daughter is gifted, or she's talented, she's very good, and she should play tennis. So they came back and said, okay, Mary, you're going to play tennis, 3 times a week after school, like your friend Rachel. And that's it. And I said, okay. And, I just did what my parents told me to do. And that's how I got into tennis.
I mean, you turned pro when you were 14, so it took you 4 years to become a professional.
It's incredible. Like, 2 years later, I was number 1 in Florida in the 12 and unders, number 1 in America, number 2 in the world. I lost the finals of the Orange Bowl. Yeah. And when I turned 13, my dad was like, that's it. No more junior tennis. You're going to play pros now. And, I couldn't play professional tournaments because the WTA rule was minimum age was 14. So we actually had to wait a year. And so that's when we moved to France. I played all the French tournaments, open tournaments for women. And we'd go to any professional tennis women's tennis tournament that was in Paris or the area, we would go to, and we would just go and watch the matches all day long. And my dad would bring your rackets, bring your stuff. And then he would say to any girl, or woman playing the tournament, you want my daughter to warm you up? You're looking for a practice partner? My daughter can be your sparring partner. And so I was able to hit with women pros, and I could actually see wow, I'm good enough and I'm as good as them, and I can actually hit with them, so that kind of gave me confidence. And then 14 years old, I started the pro tour, and I was the youngest to turn pro at that time. And I remember I started playing the qualifying of the $10,000 tournaments in America, and just worked my way up the ladder.
At the time, did you think it was crazy, or was it only after looking back that unbelievable?
At the time you're in it and you kind of just do what you're told. So, as my dad was just telling me, this is what you're going to do. And I just did it, and I listened, and I worked as hard as I possibly could. And I tried to win as much as I possibly could. And, you don't think about much else except for the fact that, it was super hard. I missed school. I missed my friends. I didn't have a normal childhood, a normal life like other kids, and I couldn't just eat whatever I wanted to eat, and I wasn't allowed to eat any sugar. So I had probably cake maybe for my birthday and Christmas, and you watch other kids eating candy bars, and you're like, why can't I have that? Ice cream, and you can't eat that, and other kids going out, with their friends to play, but you have to stay home and rest because you have training. And So there was a lot of sacrifices, and it was really, really hard, growing up as a kid, doing that. But at the end of the day, that was the road that I needed to take to become the champion that I wanted to be.
And how does it feel to have success at such a young age, like 14?
Um, you know, you just don't, you just think about winning. You don't, and for me, it was just about trying to play as good as I can and just to win as many matches as I could. And it's very simple, I think, in a 14-year-old's mind. And like I said, my goal was to win the French Open one day. It was, watching tennis on TV with my dad, and French Open was the tournament that we used to watch, and hopefully to play it one day and to win it one day.
What do you wish you had known when you first started out?
What do I wish that I had known?
Yeah, when you first started out.
No, I don't think I can say that I wish I had known something, like I think back to when I was 14 and I was on the tour and playing. I can't think of anything that I would have said, okay, I wish I would have known that when I was 14, when I was playing on the tour.
Maybe the media, the attention?
I had a lot of media attention, like I said, from a young age. Even like, in America at 12 years old for winning, the nationals and the number one. And, so you're in the newspaper, so you start to get a little bit of the media attention. But I mean, like I said, you can't really teach that. You have to experience it and kind of go through it. I think the most, important thing, or one of the most important things that I learned is, that hard work always pays off sooner or later. So just to continue to persevere, to be patient, to work hard, to not give up, to believe in yourself, no matter what other people say. I learned a lot of great lessons in life during my tennis career, for sure.
I understand faith has been an important part of your life for the past 20 years. How has that changed your life both on and off the court?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. Thanks for asking. So I became a born-again Christian in March of 2000. And that really totally changed my life because I was really searching for something that was going to, bring me peace. I was looking for peace. I was trying to do things or find what's going to bring me peace in my heart, and something that was going to also heal me and heal my heart from all of my, past wounds in my childhood and my upbringing, and all the difficulties that I had with my dad being my coach, who was really abusive verbally and physically. And I left my family when I was 18, and I had a lot of my parents divorced, and then I had a lot of anger and hurt and unforgiveness and fear, and just so much that I was carrying along with me every day, day in and day out, and looking for something that was going to help me with all of that. And also I had a lot of questions, spiritually. I was raised Catholic. I went to mass every Sunday, believed in God. And I just felt like there was something missing, and I just didn't know what it was. And so I went on this journey, spiritually seeking for myself the truth and answers to all my questions, and also something that was going to fulfill me, because I always felt, despite all of my success in tennis, that I always felt like something was missing, and I just didn't know what it was. I couldn't put my finger on it, so it really bothered me. And when one player shared the gospel with me on tour, I just knew that what she was telling me was the truth, about who Jesus is, and, the Son of God, and that, we're separated from God because of our sin. And if you believe in heaven and hell, and where are you going if you die today? No one ever asked me those questions before. And I was like, well, I think I'm going to heaven. I was just like, why? Like, well, I didn't do anything bad enough, and enough of it deserved to go to hell. She's like, well, that's not the truth. And I was like, the truth? What is the truth? And she's like, well, do you believe in Jesus, that he's the Son of God? I said, I do. She's like, do you believe in heaven? I said, yes. And she's like, well, do you believe that you're a sinner? I said, yes. I see my life. I believe that. And she's like, okay, well, it's really simple. It's like the Bible says, and Jesus was talking to Nicodemus. He says, you just need to be born again. And I was like, well, what is that? I've never heard of that, She's like, it's just really simple. You just have to repent, just say you're sorry. Just ask forgiveness for all of your sins. And if you believe and you're sincere with faith in your heart, he'll forgive you. And you're born again and you have the gift of eternal life. And I was like, no way. It's like, I had never heard that before. And I was like kind of upset. Like, why haven't I heard this before? I'm 25 years old, and I just knew that what my friend Linda was telling me was the truth, and it spoke to my heart. And it was like, I just knew that was it. And I said, Linda, you're so special. You've got something really different. What do you have? And she says, I have Jesus in my heart. And I was like, well, I knew I didn't have Jesus in my heart. And I just knew that was it. So for me, I woke up one morning, I was in Indian Wells at the tournament. I woke up in my hotel room one morning, I was all by myself. And I was like, you know what, that's it. Like, I'm done living my life this way. I can't continue another day. I'm empty. I'm miserable. And I just prayed and repented and asked the Lord to forgive me for all my sins. I gave him my life. I said, Lord, I want your will, not mine. I want you to be in control, not me. And Jesus come into my heart. And that's the moment that I was born again. And I just knew that I was forgiven, and I felt his love, and I felt his peace, and just a joy in my heart that I knew, if I died that day, I was going to heaven. And I had that assurance then. And it was like, I knew. And when that happened, the Lord just showed me that I needed to forgive my dad. And so this is when, you asked, how did that change my life and change me? Well, I was, first of all, the Lord healed my heart from all my wounds in my past. And then I was able to forgive my dad, which was a huge miracle. That would have never happened otherwise. Because my dad, for me, I was never going to see him. I was never going to talk to him again. Hated him, afraid of him. And the Lord just showed me, you need to forgive your dad. And I was like, wow. I was like, but he doesn't deserve it. He's done too much, too bad. He's hurt me too much, And the Lord's like, well, who are you to not forgive him, And I was like, oh yeah, you're right, Lord, forgive me. So I said, but I'm gonna need some help here. This is tough for me. So by a miracle, I was able to forgive my dad and just have a new heart for him and love him with the heart and the love of the Lord. And our relationship was restored. And that was such a huge miracle in my life. And, I changed drastically. There were things in me that the Lord just did. And when I arrived at the French Open in 2000, even the journalists and everyone were like, wow, Mary, you're so different. You seem so much calmer on important points. And you don't get so mad anymore on the court when you play. And what has happened? Have you done mental training, or what have you done? And I was like, no, I just know that God is in control. My life is in his hands, and whatever happens, happens. And I just give 100% of myself, and whatever happens is going to be the best for me. So, it just changed me as a person, and it changed my life and changed my relationships. And of course, tennis was a big part of my life. So it affected my tennis in a big way as well.
And that, I guess, has been the biggest blessing of your life.
Well, for sure. I mean, it's been 20 years now that I know the Lord, and which is amazing.
Yeah.
And it totally changed me as a person, and changed even my outlook. Then I understood, why I play tennis. I knew that it was God that had given me this gift from day one to be able to play, and that it was his plan that he wanted me to play. And so I wanted to do my best. I wanted to do my best for the Lord and to glorify him, that he would get all the glory, and just to be able to give 100% of myself and enjoy it.
I mean, your father, Jim, was a tough coach and pushed you to your limits, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
At any point, did your mother ever intervene and tell him that he was being a bit too tough?
My mom, I think, tried maybe a couple times, but my dad was very abusive, and so it was scary, basically. So you just knew, what, you can't do anything and you can't say anything. So it was really hard for my mom too, as well. And many times I was like, Mom, why don't we just leave? Let's just run away. But she was scared, because she's like, well, if we run away and he finds us, and, then you're just scared of what the consequences might be, so just basically stayed and stuck it out. And then, that's why when I was 18, I was like, okay, I'm out of here. And I just, I had a bodyguard for 2 years. I had a restraining order. It was crazy, and then my parents divorced, and I think my mom just took that opportunity to be able to, to divorce my dad at that time, and our family just, changed basically from that moment forward.
I mean, your father was sorry for what he'd done in the end. Why do you think he had a change of heart?
Well, the interesting thing is, what happened is my father developed bladder cancer in February of 2016. And I was able to be with him through the whole process, and, all his doctor's appointments, his surgeries, his treatments. And I mean, I knew his medications and dosages and timing and everything, like, better than his nurses. I was always there to make sure he was well taken care of and not in pain, because if he wasn't, he could have a lot of pain. And I just remember being there with him, and that whole situation really, really softened his heart, and it really humbled him. And my father also gave his life to Jesus during his sickness, and he really changed. He's a different person, and he just was a lot calmer and kinder and softer. And there was a point where then he just said he was sorry for everything, and he was so grateful for my heart for him and how I would take care of him. Sometimes he would just cry, and he was in his hospital bed and I was with him, and he'd just be crying. And I was like, Dad, are you okay? Are you in pain? What's wrong? He's like, no. And I was like, well, why are you crying? He's like, just so grateful for how much you love me and how you're taking care of me. He was just so touched by that. And I said, well, thank the Lord, first of all, because he's given me this heart for you, but it's the Lord and it's his heart for you. And that's how much he loves you. And then how much I love you, And so, yeah, it was, we had really special, really rich times before he passed away in April of 2017.
You won the Fed Cup twice, and has been an important part of your career. You were the vice captain for the French team in 2017 with Yannick Noah. How was that experience?
Yes, I loved always playing Fed Cup. It was so much fun being in the team, and tennis is an individual sport, and I really enjoyed being a part of the Fed Cup. We won it twice, great experience, different captains each time, and I just really loved it. And for me, Emily Mauresmo decided to stop being the captain of the Fed Cup team and spoke to me about taking over. And I just said, I'd be honored to, but I just don't feel like it's the right time, because that's when my dad was really sick. And I said, I need to be free for my dad. And so then Yannick Noah became the captain, which I was very happy for him and for the girls. And Yannick contacted me to be the vice captain. And I said, well, Yannick, this situation, my dad's really ill, and I need to be able to be flexible to be with him at any moment when I need to. And he's like, yeah, that's fine, no problem. So I said, okay, so, let's do it. I mean, I love Yannick. He's fun. He's a great captain. I can learn a lot, and I was happy to be a part of the team. It was a great experience. I feel like I learned a lot through that. It also wasn't very easy because my dad was sick, but I did, speak to my dad about it and his doctors, and it was perfectly fine for me to be able to do that and travel when I did travel. Because I always wanted to make sure. I was like, is it okay? Can I travel? If it wasn't, I wasn't going to travel. And it was fine. So, still, being in Switzerland and our first Fed Cup tie, having to, deal with issues sometimes on the phone with the nurses or the hospitals or with my dad. So it wasn't always easy. But to be there with the girls and to help them and to be a part of the team, it was a really great experience. And the second match that we had as Fed Cup team, I was actually not able to be with the team because it was in April, and that's when my dad was, kind of on his last days. And so the team really was very understanding, and they even dedicated, they said, if we win this match, we'll dedicate it to your dad. And they won that one and dedicated it to my dad. So that was really special.
And what did you learn from Yannick Noah specifically?
Yannick is a very deep guy, and he really gets into your head, into your heart, and he's more about the emotional aspect of the game. He's not too worried about what your technique is, or tactically a little bit, but not so much either. It's just more about getting a connection with the player. And, because you're sitting on the bench during their match. So there needs to be that connection. You need to be in their head, be in their heart, and understand how they function and what they're feeling, and to really get them to feel strong feelings for the Fed Cup, for your country, for these matches, for your team. And he really gets into the soul of the player.
Do you ever see yourself maybe being the captain for the French team one day?
I think it's a possibility to be Fed Cup captain one day. I think it's a big responsibility. I think Julien Beneteau, who became the captain after Yannick Noah, has done a fantastic job, and I'm very happy for him. He was able to get Caroline Garcia back in the team. And for me, you can't win Fed Cup if you don't have Caroline and Christina. So I'm very happy that he was able to do that and to win. So it was like amazing, so he's doing a great job for now. And then we'll see down the road if things change.
I mean, I know you're talking to me from Florida, but Mauritius has been your other home for you.
Right.
What
Yeah.
made you move there?
So I went to Mauritius the first time in November 2005 to visit a church, and just really special. I went there and I just really fell in love with the people, with the island, with the church, and my heart just really felt at home. And when I was there in the church, my heart was like, yes, this is it. Everything that you believe, everything that you've been looking for is here. And so that's why I went there the first time. And then I went back, I think before the Australian Open Tour 6 to practice, because it was kind of like on the way to Australia and get used to the weather and those kind of things. And then I went there in 2008, like I said, when I couldn't play anymore, and started to do some Bible school and do some trips to Africa, which the church was doing, and things that I had also wanted to go to Africa and do some mission trips there. So that was really really special, because it's something that I wanted to do as well.
And you've been involved in tennis in Mauritius, I believe.
I started helping my neighbors' kids,
Okay.
basically, because they were training at a little tennis academy there in Mauritius with a French coach, and the French coach decided to move back to France, and they didn't have anyone to train them, and they had a tennis court at their house. So I said, well, I mean, I live right next door to you guys. You guys have a court, so why not? I'll help you out temporarily until you find somebody else. And I ended up doing it for 5 years, and I brought them to Florida to train afterwards, because they're the best in Mauritius, and they wanted to try to be pros. And I thought, well, if you want to try to be pros, you've got to go somewhere, to train. So that's why I brought them to Florida.
I mean,
And I also organized a series of, I was going to say, because I also organized a series of ITF pro events for women in 2015 and 2016. So it was the Mary Pierce Indian Ocean Series, and it was 3 $10,000 tournaments back to back, 1 in Reunion and 2 in Mauritius. And it was really to help the girls and the women in that area of the world in Africa, to give them an opportunity to discover tennis, also inspire them to play tennis, to help them start their professional tennis career, and to help them in their professional career to improve their ranking.
I have two questions from Eddie, who is a listener of the show.
Okay.
His first question, his first question is, what do you think about Steffi Graf and Monica Seles as players?
Oh, good question. So Steffi Graf, amazing. I mean, I've got so much respect for her, and she, amazing forehand, amazing footwork, super professional, super serious. I had the privilege of training with Steffi 3 days in Boca Raton, where she lives. I think it was about 16 or 17 years old at the time, and it was like the most intense 3 days that I've ever experienced. And it was really nice. She's a bit shy, but super hardworking, super fit, and I love Steffi. And then the other player was who?
Monica Seles.
Oh yes, Monica, of course.
Yeah.
So Monica, love Monica. Gosh, I remember when Monica came onto the scene. I was at the Voluntary Tennis Academy, it was called at the time. And Monica arrived with her family, and she was just practicing like all day, every day. And she would get even on the ball machine, and she'd practice one shot for like a week. And I was like, I've never seen anyone ever do that, but just incredible, the concentration, the dedication, the hard work. And as a competitor, she was just one of the fiercest competitors out there ever. And such an incredible game, coming out on the tour with the 2 hands on both sides, incredible angles. Loved her angles that she could achieve from both sides of forehand and her backhand side. And a lot of respect for Monica, who's a friend today.
And Eddie's second question is, perhaps unfairly, it seems some fans saw you as a prima donna on the court. Do you think this was an unfair and harsh judgment?
I don't know, like, why people said that. Obviously, maybe some way that I was on the court, I don't know, but for me, I was just trying to be as focused as I could. on the court, and I was competitive. I'm a different person on the court than I am off the court, that's for sure. So yeah.
Last part of the interview, I'm going to name 5 players you've played against. And can you try to tell me in a few sentences how you would try to play them and beat them? So the first one, let's start with Amelie Mauresmo.
Oh, high balls to the backhand. Yeah, she had a great backhand for sure, don't get me wrong. In her forehand, she'd make a bit more mistakes, but I love playing against players who had a one-handed backhand. So, a lot of serves to the body, kick body serves, maybe some angles to the forehand side to open up the court. But yeah, I don't think she really liked the high balls deep to the backhand side. And then I was able to come up and then attack, put the ball away.
And our second player, Monica Salas, who we just talked about.
Oof, Monica. Yeah. Geesh. Monica's tough. You basically just have to try to play your best tennis, make her move and hit behind her. Because if you hit the ball to her too many times, she's just going to dominate you and dominate the rally and dominate the point. So basically try to, definitely keep her on the move as much as possible.
Lindsay Davenport.
Oh my gosh, Lindsay's so tough. Big serve, big returns, big heavy ground strokes. You got to serve really well. Got to get a lot of first serves in because she really attacks your second serve. Try to get her, return her serve well. Get the returns deep. So otherwise she really hurts you from the first ball after her serve. And the same thing for Lindsay is, get her on the move, but try to mix it up a little bit, with some angles and some drop shots. She didn't like the short, low balls coming forward. So try, to do that a little bit.
Conchita Martinez.
Conchita, I liked playing against because she didn't have a lot of power for me and it was more topspin. So I had a lot of time to be able to put my game in place and to play against her. So, I would say try to attack her second serve and maybe even sometimes come in behind it. She did have a good backhand down the line, so had to be careful of that. And she had a really good forehand short angle cross court. And same thing, a one-handed player, they don't like the high ball, their backhand. So, kick serves to her backhand, and then get her moving because she wasn't super fast either, but just to be really aggressive, hit hard, take control of the point from the beginning, and just to keep going forward and try to finish the point at the net.
And last one, Martina Hingis.
Oh gosh, Martina, she's so tough to play because she's so smart. It's like when she plays tennis, she plays chess, and she's so efficient and she changes directions and you can't read where she's going to play. So, really taking advantage of any second serves you get from her and try to attack from the beginning, hitting big shots coming to the net behind it, and then sometimes hitting a drop shot for the return, and I'd probably play more her forehand side. I think her forehand was probably a weaker side. And same thing, just aggressive, hit the ball hard, try to come forward as much as possible.
Mary, thanks so much for your honesty. I really enjoyed that.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure to be with you.
And one other thing, so we do this with every guest. So can you just say, hi, I'm Mary Pierce, and you're listening to The Double Bagel.
Hi, I'm Mary Pierce, and you're listening to The Double Bagel.
Thank you so much, Mary.
All right. You're welcome.
All right. Stay safe and take care. Take care of yourself in Florida.
You too. Stay safe. Stay healthy. God bless you. And thanks for getting up so early. Sorry about that.
No worries.